In my last video, I created my very first pixel character. I did a simple character rotation and even a small walk cycle. And I was overall pretty happy about the design. This week, not so much anymore. So let's fix it. So we are now back in Piskel, and let's have a look at the design I did last week, which is our little pixel arbor here. And as I said, I was pretty pleased with it last week. Looking at it now, I have some issues with it. For one, it's not really a top-down view, it's more like a frontal view of the character. I'm not very happy about the hair here, so that's not what I had in mind. Didn't mind last week, but yeah, let's change this. And yeah, I'm especially not happy with this over here with the glasses, the nose, and this big black shadow, which looks a bit like mustache. And yeah, not a very flattering sort of mustache, if you know what I mean. Also, it looks a bit like those glasses you can get for Halloween with the big nose and again, the mustache below. So yeah, let's fix this. I prepared some models over here. Let's just flip them on, just to see where this could be going. So I feel like those are already more top-down viewy, if you know what I mean. This is basically the classic Game Boy RPG sprite inspired by the Pokemon sprite I did last week. And this is, yeah, just a very small version, just to see where how small I can get. And at the end, I would like to have a look at a more of a maybe Game Boy Advanced kind of sprite. It still feels somehow yeah, frontal, but not as much as the first draft. So I would say let's keep it simple. We start small and we work our way up the line. So for the very small character, I thought about using just two colors, which will be black and white over here. And yeah, let's just see if we can turn him into Arbor. Again, I did start with the glasses, because those might be the only recognizable characteristic of the character. Maybe aside from the hair, we will see. If you look at the body, that's basically just a few pixels, so there's not much to be done in that regard. Again, I did speed up the process a bit, because in real time this whole video would have taken, 40-30 minutes, and that's probably a bit long for YouTube here. So, looking at the hair now, where I managed to incorporate the 3 waves that you might remember from the sketch, which in my opinion already looks a lot better than the flame in the first draft in the middle. I also included a small lock on the forehead and increased the size of the head just for 1 pixel to include the nose, which again, given the limited size and the limited color palette, is basically just 2 black pixels under the glasses. And combine this with a dark shirt, you have a 16 pixel high version of Arbor. I feel like all the characteristics are there, so let's continue with the Game Boy sprite. So for this version I tried to use the original Game Boy color palette, which is basically these 4 shades of green up here. If I remember correctly, you are only allowed to use 3 of the 4 colors for real Game Boy sprites. I don't know the reason behind this, and it doesn't matter for this video anyway, because I won't hold myself to this standards, so I will be using all 4 shades of green for Arbor now. With the basic Pokemon sprite underneath, I get this nice top-down view for the character, which I didn't get for the original draft. And I was able to include the 3 waves to represent Arbor's characteristic haircut, similar to the 16 pixel version of Arbor, with the colors, I was able to include a little more detail in comparison to the previous draft and a little more depth to the character. Turned out quite funny for the nose, because it now looks like a really big nose with 2 nostrils on the side of it, depending on how you look at it. Just finishing up with some highlights for the hair, and I believe this could be a really nice sprite for a classic Game Boy game. But for me, I believe I will need a little more color. I will need a few more pixels to really get Arbus' character. So in the next step, we will have a go at maybe a Game Boy Advance kind of sprite in color. To start it off, I did copy the color palette from the original draft, and compared to my template, as you can see, I will need a little longer face to get Arbus' characteristic, but I think that's not a problem. What I really like about this model is that it has no outlines for the arms. It's just a little detail, but I really came to like this. And I did again start with the glasses. And what's great about this model, I now have some room to include this nose thingy for the glasses. I don't know how it's called, maybe ridge or bridge, maybe something like that. And I can really put a big nose with some shadows right underneath it. Let's do it just a little larger still. Yeah, fill in the face to see how that looks in an initial draft. So it's rather similar to the first draft that I'm trying to improve on here. Yeah, as you can see already with a little more detail here. I'm not really comfortable going into the hair yet, so I will continue with the waistcoat and the trousers for the character. And yeah, get at the hair just a little after. It's starting to look more dynamic and maybe a little more, three-dimensional with the shading of the character. Right now it looks a bit noisy in the face. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that, but it looks like it's going in the right direction. So we already have a little more detail at the hairline with this little pixel at the middle, and let's just draw some big waves to see where we are going here. I think that really has a lot of volume that I was missing from the first draft. And again, it's got more of this three-dimensional feel to it. So it's less flat than the first draft that I did last week. And with some highlights and shadows, you get a really nice perspective, like this layering kind of the waves on top of his head. I feel like I will need at least 2 more colors for this model, so we'll need a little more depth in the brown, and also for the body, for the waistcoat, so a darker red, brown red, mellow kind of color for the waistcoat. And the hair is almost black already, but let's get a little darker to see where we are going and where we could maybe break up this harsh outline, especially at the hair, to give it, the impression of being a little lighter than the rest of it. Yeah, this works quite nicely. I'm put a few more shadows at the nose to get a little more depth here, and to avoid the mustache situation from the original draft. So this is looking rather nicely. I get strong Zelda the Minish Cap Link vibes from the early parts of the game before you find the Minish Cap. So it's this Link just got out of bed look that I'm reminded of here. I think it's a really cool evolution going from the 1-bit 16 pixel high version to the classic Game Boy sprite. to my first go at pixel art to see this, Game Boy Advanced kind of character. And so for me, this is really going in the right direction here. And I'm excited to further improve on this and maybe do, a character rotation and maybe a walk cycle for next week. So if you're interested in that, feel free to tag along and see you next week.